So a new government hiring memo just dropped, and the intent of this memo is to drastically reshape the federal workforce. Many people, they see this as a federal hiring freeze extension. As you know, 9 months of this year, we were under a hiring freeze. But let's jump into this memo and look at some of the details, some of the changes. First off, every agency needs a strategic hiring committee. We already knew that based on the executive order, but what we did not know is, what does that consist of? Now we know that information. It consists of 5 to 9 members. Non-career appointees. What does that even mean? That means that the vast majority of the members on this committee, they need to be political appointees. Why? Obviously, there is a trust issue. They do not trust, and when I say they, I mean the administration, they do not trust people who have been in the federal workforce for multiple years, 10, 20 years. They don't want those folks. They want their own people, brand new people. They've been in the government all of 2025, really just this year. All the appointees that we're seeing right now, it's 2025. Schedule C, SES, doesn't matter. So that's who they want. That's who they trust that can align the federal workforce with the priorities of the administration. All new hires, they need to be promptly sent to OPM. You need to make sure OPM is aware of it. The next thing are the annual staffing plans. Now, it's not just about hiring with these plans. It's also about getting people out of the federal workforce because they want you to identify low-value jobs. What does that even mean? What's low value? Well, we can assume it's jobs that do not align with the Trump administration's priorities. It's jobs that are redundant in nature. So if somebody else does that job's duties within the office or in another agency, that job is redundant and it could potentially be cut. The same is to be said with contractors because it specifically says in the memo that they want agencies to identify low-value contractors. Now, this is probably for select agencies because what I've been seeing in agencies like the Department of Homeland Security, there has been a ramp up when it comes to contractors. Okay, so the next one's even more interesting. It's the 1-to-4 rule. And if you've been following along this year, you're tracking that agencies are only allowed to hire one federal employee for every 4 that leave their agency. So there's some clarification with this, and essentially, here's the real big change. Agencies can only use departures that happened within a fiscal year. So let me give you an example. You know, over 100,000 people left at the end of September. But that was fiscal year 2025. We're in fiscal year 2026. So if an agency wanted to hire this fiscal year, this month, in November, if they wanted to hire, they could not use the justification that they lost people in September because that would go outside of the fiscal year. So you have to stay within your fiscal year. And this presents a problem if you're trying to hire, let's say in October, because the fiscal year was just a month ago. If you're looking at October, because September was the old fiscal year. So that's one of the new, nuances with this rule. Also, OPM has exemption authority. So the agency does not have exemption authority unless it falls under 3 categories: national security, immigration enforcement, or public safety. If it doesn't fall under one of those 3, the agency cannot just say we need an exemption. They have to get permission from OPM to get that exemption. So despite all of that, we will still see a lot of hiring taking place in 2026 if it falls under one of those 3 main categories. And I'm going to give you an idea on what that will look like. Okay, so national security. You can see jobs in 0080, security administration. So these are the individuals that do audits on documents inside of SCIFs. They maintain personnel security clearances, databases, and things like that. That would fall in line under national security. You can see maybe 2210, IT folks. You can make a clear case that a 2210's job in DoD, if you're working on a military base, probably has something to do with national security. So we should still see hiring for that. Now, the next one, immigration enforcement. It's not all Border Patrol officers or deportation officers. No, there are administrative jobs that fall under this exemption. So you have like a immigration services assistant. That job usually goes up to GS9, and they're assisting on all facets of immigration. So they're maintaining the document, they're creating the document, they're assisting immigration officers. So we could see people, that's a 0303, that's an admin job. That could be exempt. Same thing if you look at public safety. What are we talking about? We're looking at, law enforcement officers, maybe firefighters, police officers. 0025 is a park ranger. That is a law enforcement position. These positions generally, they start between $50,000 and $75,000 a year. There is an academy requirement that might put you in some sort of academy setting for maybe 3 months or so, 13 weeks, but you're paid. You're paid during the training portion of it. There are a lot of jobs in DOD for a police officer. Same thing with the VA. There are a lot of positions open. They're looking for people. Are you okay with coming to work with a firearm, qualifying, maintaining a firearm? If you are, there could be opportunities for that. But these are not the only positions that will be exempt. If a federal agency can make a case, if they can explain to OPM how the job supports one of those three main functions, national security, immigration enforcement, or public safety, if they're able to do that, then they're going to be able to hire without any attention to the 1-to-4 rule. And I believe this will largely focus on DOD and DHS. DOD and DHS can make a lot of positions intertwined with national security. And if you combine those two large agencies, we're talking about 50% of the federal workforce. That's the half that will be hiring. The other half, not so much. Now, can this change? Will it change? It could. Anything is possible. But I believe there will have to be some more pain, some more public services not being done. And you can see this with like SSA. That's a clear example, right? So disability claims, there's a huge backlog. The backlog grows worse. People start to, really suffer. In hospitals, they're not able to afford food or shelter, and we start to see despair on a larger magnitude, talking about maybe tens of thousands of people because of the backlog, because we're not able to give these people the disability that maybe they deserve. Maybe they're entitled to this disability based on their circumstance. So if there's a failure like that, you will see a rush to hire. Same thing with veterans and VBA. If the veterans are not getting benefits and there's a severe repercussion that's clearly visible, the public can see it, then there'll be a rush to hire. And you can pick your agency, doesn't matter. How does your agency interact with the public? What would happen if the understaffed agency continues for a prolonged period of time? What pain would be generated? I mean, we can see it clearly with the FAA. Now, the FAA, that would fall under public safety. So air traffic controllers, anybody under the FAA, largely, I would say, can make a case for public safety, depending on the job, the duties, and responsibilities. But that's the forecast essentially for 2026. That's how we're looking for the next 3 years. That's how federal hiring will look. This memo and the executive order, they're shaping the way on how things are going to go. In addition to this, there are some federal jobs out there that move people to tears. That's right. It makes people cry. I don't know if you've ever cried at work. It's an unpleasant experience. You don't want to do it. But for some of these jobs that could potentially be exempt going into next year, you probably don't want to take them unless you're ready for them. If you're 100% dialed in and you're locked in, you have the right personality and attitude, maybe you could do it. A lot of people can't. So if you want a list of the federal jobs that have a reputation on making workers cry, so maybe you can avoid it, then I want you to check this video out next. Stay updated by signing up to the free newsletter down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.